me call the meeting to order. And Michael, thank you for coming in. I don't know, how long can you stay, Michael?
I can stay.
Okay, all right, good. I want you to, the main thing is to see these boards. Okay, agenda items. Could we have someone make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, we have to
Aye.
go. All right, no, we got Mike.
I can't see up there.
Bruce is on. Hi,
Okay.
Bruce, welcome.
Bruce,
Thank you. Okay, do you want to say aye, Bruce?
He just
Did you?
did.
Mark?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Randy.
Hi, Jan. I'm Jan.
Mark, do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, Jackie, would you like to introduce everyone, or?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know everyone. I would love to know everyone because some new, who are here that are concerned about what might potentially be an affordable housing site on Glendale Road. So just to start, my name is Jackie Harris. I live at 7 Glendale Road. And just, I'm sorry, Chair, to clarify, will we be able to provide comments on that specific project after introducing ourselves? Or would you recommend, I mean, you said it was like an hour to a 2-hour meeting. So would you allow us to just say what's on our mind at the beginning? And that way, if folks have to leave, they can, and some of us are gonna stay until the meeting concludes, but it's really
Okay,
a question of a procedure for you.
Jackie, in order to do that, we would need to take public comments out of order. And if no one has,
You can do that.
if no one has any objection,
No objection.
No objection.
please,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Yeah, I've already gone on the record, so I guess we'll just kind of say who we all are.
Start, I'm Jenny Jadow, and I live at 1 Glendale Middle Road.
Next.
I'm David J.
Good enough.
Peter Borinsky, I live at 7-8 Glendale Middle Road.
Hope Forbes, and we live at 9 Glendale Middle Road.
And I'm Tom Forbes.
Bill Markham, 11 Glendale Middle Road.
Nikki Amter, 7, sorry.
Teresa Zanetti, 10 Castle Hill Road.
I'm Sergio Domolino, I live on 14 Glendale Middle Road.
And I'm Chelsea Simmons. I also live at 14 Glendale Road.
Okay, so everybody seems to have a Glendale Middle Road address. Welcome.
Castle Hill as well.
Oh, terrific. Would someone like to, if we'll call for public comments, and anyone who'd like to speak, please feel free.
I guess I'm sorry that we misunderstood that this was a meeting about this, because I think I have more questions perhaps than I have comments. So that's why I came tonight, to be able to understand the project better. I have not yet, and I can look on the town website, seen a map out of the parcel, because I keep hearing that they have frontage on Glendale Middle Road, so I'm working to understand exactly where that might be. And then also, perhaps this is a concern for much further down the road, but there is right in front of our house a very sharp turn, and we're just curious about if we are going to increase the population in that area, how we make sure that corner is safe, because we ourselves have had some narrow misses there. So lots of questions. I'm looking forward to in-depth conversation and discussion about what is being considered and what it looks like and how it impacts our neighborhood.
And the questions are helpful because it gives us a sense of what's on your mind, and then making sure down the road that we are thinking of these things and can come back with discussion.
And then also when the meeting will be, that we can come together and really discuss this in depth.
Here's what I can say today.
Sure.
We have signed an agreement with Mr. Morris to review the property, and we are hiring, we sent out a request for proposal for 4 engineers to look into the buildable land on the property and the wetlands issues on the property. And other than that, that's really all the information there is.
Is there a map out of where the property is? I guess
Yes.
that's my first
It's
question.
on. Mark, can you tell her how to find it?
Yeah, well, have you ever used the town GIS map? There is a property map that indicates every property in the town and lists owners and other data about it. Let's see, I have
Go to the assessor page and it'll say Access GIS.
Okay.
Then you can put in
On the
the address
assessor
or his
page.
name and it'll come up.
Okay, and is this delineated on there or does it just?
Yeah, it's a 34-acre parcel, and it's surrounded on the left by Castle Hill, at the top of it by Glendale Middle, and it doesn't really come out to Cherry Street, but it's within that big box. And then there is a Mass Electric line that goes through sort of the southern end of the parcel. And it's mostly surrounded by the homes and this electrical line. And also on one side, it's where the solar array is and the phone tower. So the access to Glendale Middle is between the Forbes and the Markham's residences. It appears to be about an 80-foot wide swath on two different parcels. This big square, the 34 acres, which has a few jagged edges depending on property lines, but it's basically a big 34-acre square. At the very top maybe runs for a couple of 100 feet, kind of this notch that goes out to Glendale Middle Road. And then next to that, there's another parcel adjacent to the Forbes property, I believe, that between the two of them creates a space of about 80 feet where there could be an access out onto Glendale Middle. So some kind of a little roadway would go through there. It would have to be wide enough to accommodate 2 fire trucks. And that would go in, I'd be guessing to say a couple of 100 feet, where there might then be kind of a circle with a certain number of homes there. I mean, that at this point is as far as we've gotten. We don't have a strong notion of exactly what would go back there. We're really at the stage where we're trying to get the engineers hired, an engineering firm hired, that can go in and assess the land. Is it buildable? Do we even want to accept this offer from Hans and Kate Morris? Because we may not be able to do anything with it. There's wetlands back there. There could be some ledge. There are questions about drainage. Water and sewer are issues that would need to be resolved. How many units could you put back there that wouldn't overstress the infrastructure? So there's so many questions that still need to be answered. And until we get those answers, we really can't even begin to project what might be there. We do have a goal. We're the Affordable Housing Trust. We were created at the town meeting. I think everybody in this room knows there's a shortage of housing in the town and that we've lost a lot of middle income people and households with kids. And the town has really evolved to be second homeowners, older retirees, some struggling lower income people, and a very small group in the middle that, used to represent kind of the heart of a town where, all the kids running around in those Norman Rockwell famous painting, those kids aren't out there on that street anymore. So our attempt is to try to correct some of that. It's a national problem from San Francisco to Main Street in town here. And it has to be solved for the most part on the local level with state assistance. And so we have determined that we're going to try and do our part. Hans came along with this offer of these 34 acres, which are surrounded by residential property. And so it's not totally out of character to try to think about housing in that area. And so, I've read in the New York Times that the cost of land acquisition is about 20% of the cost of constructing a new home. So we could start out with essentially a 20% discount in trying to build homes that are affordable by middle income people, the folks that work in town, firemen, teachers, workers in town, who are shut out of the housing market, can't live here. Seniors can't downsize from their bigger houses to something more manageable. The children of longtime residents can't live in the town they grew up in. So we've got problems we're trying to address. And given an opportunity to have this land, that is what we're pursuing. Now, we don't want to create a big mess for everybody, for you guys. You have rights, you're going to be heard. I can't guarantee that whatever you want is going to be in the final plan. We don't even know what that's going to be yet until we get the assessment of the land. And that's going to take some months. Probably by May, we'll have a pretty good idea of whether this is even acceptable land. I don't know if that answers some of your questions.
I'm going to cut you off.
I'm done.
That's now 10 minutes more than we had planned.
Teresa Zanetti.
Yes,
My
Teresa.
understanding, this is low-income housing, not middle.
Not determined.
It's not determined. Anybody else want to speak? Please, we're happy to hear from you.
I just got one thing that I want to say, or comment on is, when you're doing this engineering study, is this going to also include like the infrastructure that's going to have to be put in place in order for
Sure.
the land to be, quote, buildable on?
If you're talking about sewer and water
Talking
facility,
about road, drainage, utilities that are run.
right.
You know, where those are gonna go, what the impact is on the street, because we all know that we don't have any formal drainage on the street, so it just doesn't drain to the end of the property. There's gonna be a lot of infrastructure that goes down the street also. And I just wanted to make sure that that was part of the plan, because my biggest concern as a taxpayer, whether it's CPA money, state money, or town money, is that we go for the big nuggets up front to make sure that we're not investing money into a research project that probably isn't feasible in the long run.
Okay.
That's just,
We will do our very best on those points.
we do have some markers. I mean, we know how much a road cost that Verizon put in for the cell tower, and that was, in my opinion, very costly. So there are some big ticket items that the board shouldn't be surprised about, and hopefully has some means to come up with a solution of how they're gonna come up with the money other than fundraising and CPA and tax money. I mean, I know I covered the three, but
They're all out of your pockets,
that's all I
right?
have to say at this point.
Okay,
All good questions.
all good. Anybody else want to comment? Yes, please.
The one thing I haven't heard being addressed, is the loss of wildlife habitat back there. Is there any reason why that's not being discussed, thought of, whatever?
In terms of the investigation,
In terms of this whole project? I haven't heard one word about that yet.
to be continued.
I'm glad you raised it.
Glad you raised it. Thank
What's
you.
your description of what you're aware of that's back there? What kind of wildlife are you seeing?
You name it, it's back there.
You got some bears back there?
We got bears,
You name it and it's back there.
everything.
Bonuses.
And
Wow.
everything, the problem is everything south of the high tension lines has been basically lost as good habitat now. And so,
They're all coming this way towards our houses now.
because of the work that's been done in the woods south of the power lines, between the power lines and Hans's house, that's been pretty much lost for habitat, for good habitat. Right now, what there is, in this parcel, it's some very good habitat, and, if you, wipe this out, which sounds like you're planning on,
Where are these animals gonna go?
is there any concern with that?
Sure, Patrick.
It's my understanding, and I think that it's somewhere Hans filed it, he did an initial study of where you could cluster 5 or 6 homes in a very small part of that parcel in the area over by, well, I'm just finished. I'm just telling you what he told me.
Okay.
And what his engineers did, in an area over by the solar array in that corner. The advantage of that, of course, from a habitat perspective specifically, now I'm not editorializing on cluster versus no cluster. I know that word doesn't go over well in some parts of town, but the degree that you could keep those in that little cul-de-sac that he had identified, most of the land would be undisturbed. I mean, it would, it
Okay,
doesn't.
so the bad part about that is, that area over there is kind of like because of the solar field, that area where you want to put the houses now is a corridor between the Jandros property, the property across the street. I'm not sure the people that live there now. And they use that whole corridor. They come across, by McMenemy's. I've seen them even cross the stone wall to the east of the Jan Rose house. And they circulate through that corner where you're talking about putting houses, because the solar field has disrupted that.
Okay.
So
Maybe we need to go somewhere else, but regardless of what relatively small part of the parcel that we're used on, the idea is not to clear cut 34 acres and, I mean, it's a.
Well, they talked about walking trails and everything else being put in there also. So that is gonna interrupt through that 34 acres.
And back in 88 to 90s, Swan already logged that entire parcel, as much wood as he could get off of it. That's why there's water problems on the street and everything else, because the town wasn't diligent at watching what was going on there. So now we have water problems. Billy and I both have brooks running down from the woods to the road. It hits the road and it has no other place to go except following.
Could I just ask you again, you said, did the Swans clear cut all the land?
They didn't clear cut it, but they cut
All the hardwood.
all the hardwood out, then they came in, took the pine out, and where they started to clear cut was 4 of the 12 houses in 88 that they proposed, and the town shot them down for 3 reasons: low water pressure, no sewer system, and not enough road frontage. I don't want to throw this out right now, but my mother-in-law sold Swan the right of way to get into the back.
She traded property
Property for property.
because they had no right of way to get back into that
Swan-
property. Swan didn't own anything there.
Swan got sold 57 feet road frontage, not 80.
Okay.
Han has to be looking at some other marker or something that I've even got a map when our house burnt down. The town sent us a map exactly where the trailer was going to be and everything, and that little piece of land between Markham's and ours is 57 feet.
Thank you.
Not enough road frontage to do anything with except put a driveway in.
Helpful, thank you. Is anybody else want to say anything? We're very happy to have these comments, but forgive us, we do have this really important document that we have been working on and is now in final form to be approved by us
Okay,
tonight.
my first question was, how do we get this put on your agenda so that we can speak in depth on this?
Well, the issue, I think, you can just request, I mean,
Right.
Jackie knows how to get a hold of me.
We just want to go and comment on what has been already put into the paper. And everything, as far as I'm concerned, that was put into that paper was wrong.
Well, we can't control what Clarence Fanto writes. Neither can Mr. Morris, despite the fact he owns the paper and is chairman. Clarence does not consult with Mr. Morris about anything. He writes what he writes and he puts it in the paper and it is what it is. But he also doesn't consult any of us. All he does is listen to the Zoom recording of this meeting and reports however he interprets what goes on here. And most of what's in there, we don't know where he got the information. So right now, there's 34 acres approximately that's been offered to us we have, and Michael, are you hiding back there?
Yep.
I can't see you, but one of the issues, the only issue that's on the agenda is to ask you to report on the RFP and the scope of services.
We do that now?
Could you do that?
Yeah, the RFP's out. We'll have the results back, request back by January 26th, and then we can award a contract and then have the initial assessment. Now, the initial assessment is mainly around the suitability of the property to even have housing, so it's just our first step of many. I also met with water and sewer, and we discussed looking at an analysis of the water and sewer, and whether that can accommodate it. So there's a whole bunch of things that will be added, and that's separate from the scope of service that is out right now. That's mainly focused on the wetland delineation, the characteristics of the property itself, and whether or not it's even suitable for housing. So if it's determined it's not, this whole thing's done. That ends. If it is found that it's a potential use, then we move on to the next steps. And according to the agreement with Hans Morris, if the town moves that direction and finds it's too expensive or whatever, then it can go to the town meeting to just be accepted as open space. So there's gonna be a whole bunch of questions being answered. The problem is right now, until we get some of this back, we're not even sure if this committee or the town itself will be moving forward. So the RFP's out, we'll have them back, we'll have a result, and then we'll select one and we'll begin that initial work.
Can you tell everybody who it was sent to?
Ty and Bond, GZA, and Foresight.
Oh, you didn't send it to Berkshire Engineering?
Doesn't matter.
All right, which,
Doesn't matter. But until those reports come back, there's really not much we can do to make any decisions about it. So there's going to be kind of a lull here in this whole process till we get the studies back.
but everything will be discussed in public. What's the date that the RFPs come back?
January 26th.
The end of the month.
Yeah, and then it's not until May 1st where we have to take action according to the preliminary, that's the deadline for us to say no or no go in terms of accepting the donation. So this is just getting the answers on whether it's feasible is going to play out over the spring. We're not rushing into designing why spend the money on engineering, architecture, and all the rest? We don't even know we can build on it yet. It's a kind of, nobody's, measurable.
I see someone with your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, during these RFPs or the wetland delineation, are you guys also looking for things like critical habitats like vernal pools or anything like that?
That'll happen during the wetland delineation, looking at anything that would prevent the building of the property. And then the engineers to make an assessment of whether there's any suitability to using this property for buildings.
And so with vernal pools, I know, and especially a lot of them, or not a lot of them, but vernal pools, there are many that aren't certified. In order to certify a vernal pool, you have to wait until spring to see if the right organisms and characteristics are there. So I'm wondering if that's going to be taken into account because that is protected habitat.
That falls under wetland delineation, and all the companies that we're going with are very familiar with doing wetland 21E assessment, or sorry, not 21E, that's a separate one, but doing the wetland delineation assessment. So they'll be taking the characteristics from looking at satellite imagery to physically going up there and planting the flags and the rest. Depending on the weather conditions, right, we might have to wait until later on, but these companies are familiar with that work and we'll expect them to do it according to DEP and the rest standards.
But separately, I wouldn't mind putting you in touch with Sally and Ron, the chairs of the chair, actually this is the vice chair of Concom. A lot of times you guys in the neighborhood will know of vernal pools that we don't know about or the state doesn't know about. There's no desire, vernal pools that people don't know are basically specialized on water systems that can either be intermittent or year round. And especially in that neighborhood, there's some really rare salamanders and other kind of creatures that rely on, kind of local vernal pools. So if you know of them, the town, at least my position of the town would be definitely communicate with us and definitely start a process because that does protect the land and that's really important. Some land has more conservation value than other land, but we're not going to know that off the top of our head. You know, so not everybody, not all these things are documented. I know we have a few that are documented on the other side over by, over like over in Rockwell, that are, they're considered high priority habitat. So,
Thank you.
There is one vernal pool on the property.
Are you aware where it is?
It may be mapped too, I mean. Yeah, but-
Yes, I know every inch, every tree, every rock of that property.
Okay, that's
I
great.
grew up on that property.
Terrific. No, but seriously, can you,
I know exactly where it is.
can you mark it and send it to us? That'd be great.
No, this is really conservation.
Let the experts.
Well, I'm a little concerned, like with wetland delineation, you can determine if it's a priority just based
Hold on, just
One
please.
side, one and
Someone's speaking.
You have to look for organisms and specific things that's sometimes in a year to actually determine if a vernal pool is a vernal pool.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
just going out and trying to delineate using, a swale auger, it's not going to do it.
Okay, well, we're going to high-quality engineering firms. So,
So sad.
but seriously, if you have information, please share it. That's the best way forward. Kate, I see you've got your hand up. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Let me just, okay. Can everyone hear me? Is it too loud or too soft?
It's loud.
Good.
This is good.
Okay, hold on, I'll turn it down. Is that better?
That's fine, Kate.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, this is Kate Fletcher speaking. And one thing you could do right off the bat without spending a penny is get the width of that driveway, because when I just pulled up the Axis Gist map, I come up with 28.8 feet.
Okay.
And
We
then
have three numbers to pick from.
a question for Michael. Michael, I guess that this will come later. So that's it. That's my question for now, or comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks,
Want
Kate.
me to answer that or?
Move on. Jackie?
My only comment is, with respect to the scope of work that's going out, will it focus solely on the 34 acres, or will it focus on some of the other impediments to development that, let's just characterize it that way? Cell phone tower, we have a environmental assessment statement that was done with that. To what extent will the consultant take into account some of the work that's already previously done that might address some of the concerns we're raising today regarding habitat?
The first assessment is strictly around just the suitability of the property for buildings first. So is it even a possibility before we spend any money on any other questions? Once that's answered, then we get into the water and sewer, we'll get into all the rest, any concerns about wildlife or the rest. But the first step here is just determining the suitability of the property, even to have buildings on it. Because if it's determined that it's way too wet back there, the rest, and it's not suitable for buildings, the whole thing's done. So why do anything else? So it's just the first step, and as I said, even if this board accepts the property, and then further assessments and costs and others come in and find it's unfeasible, then what's in the agreement is that the property then can go to a town meeting vote to be accepted as open space. And then it will just become protected open space. So right now is just the first of many steps to determine the suitability of this property.
And there's a deadline associated with the work to be conducted by the selected engineering firm.
Yeah.
What is that deadline?
The end of April, so that we can have a decision back to Morris. As far as the initial acceptance, but like we said, they did put in the clause that if anywhere, even after acceptance, that it can just become open space. If it's not suitable for affordable housing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's right. He's at the end of April. Yeah, the end of April is next to May.
Right, that's when the work has to be done.
No side conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. No, wait, I just want to clarify, Michael, what's the deadline that the
I don't have the RFP right in front of me. It's in April, so it's in time for, once we get it in, we'll have it, and yes.
Okay, so we have enough time between the report
Yes, we'll get the answer.
and May 1?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anybody else? Thank you. All right, And Kate, is that the last thing you want to say on the?
Yeah, just that strip of land in between the two properties. I can't remember the owners of those two properties, but I wasn't quite sure what I heard referenced as 80 feet. It does not look like 80 feet to me. It looks like quite a bit less. So
Okay, well, we'll get the official.
Kate, we've
that's
got it up.
assessors, that's readily available from the assessor's office.
The map
It's
is,
right here.
All right. Is everybody for today? If the answer to the question about when you can come, I think the important thing to come is when when we have the information, we have the meeting to review the information from the engineers. And you're also certainly able, if you'd like, to get the engineering report and look at it yourself as soon as it's available.
I know from one of the meetings you had the map of the property. Do you have that posted online so they don't have to go through the GIS and? No?
I don't think it's posted.
No, it's not.
Could we get that posted?
I assume that marks are. Yeah, you can give our guru. You're our guru.
It's just easier than you can just look.
You want to give it to Terry and she'll post it?
Yeah, we do have a map. In fact, I think you helped me get it scanned and in the office. So we do have that. I just want to say that I'm looking at the GIS axis map now. There's the 57 feet that the Forbeses swapped out to get land in the back of your house and gave up to the side. That is 57 feet. Next to that, there's a little neck that goes up that's 40 feet. It's on the map. I don't know. Maybe the town map is wrong. I've heard that these cannot be 100%.
It's wrong.
yeah, it could be. The assessor's map is not the same as a survey.
Right.
Yeah, so all these questions have to be answered, and we don't have answers now. We have a generous, I think, offer of a donation. We got to go through due diligence to figure out if there's anything there, and until we do, we don't know what we're talking about. So,
Okay, I think the only reason that we keep bringing this 57 feet up is if you don't have enough land to get back there, why are you spending the money to have all this stuff done?
So the
We know
the minimum size roadway would be 50 feet. So you could create a roadway in there 50 feet.
So 50 feet, and then you have to give the people on either side a buffer zone. You need to run electric and water and sewer and all that. It's gonna be more than 50 feet.
So a typical roadway with side areas and the rest is 50 feet.
Okay.
I thought it was
That is
60. I thought
typically-
it was 60 feet.
It's typically 50 feet.
So you're going to be able to get 2 fire trucks past each other going opposite ways
So you're
on that
so-
road that you're proposing.
Yes. Yeah. If it's 57 feet, you'd be able to get 2 fire trucks up, yes.
It was 25. Okay, to be continued. Thank you for raising all those things.
Thank you for coming in.
And thank you for coming.
I'm going to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, you are more than welcome to
Those
stay.
maps have nothing to do with.
Yeah,
No.
Okay.
All right, the next issue, which I will be very quick about,
No, we're going to the same line.
Yeah, we're sorry we missed the last one. We were checking public notices, we were checking everywhere we can find it. Please feel free to just come by.
All right.
Thank you. And if you know any new information, anything, please, let's all of us be in touch about this.
Michael, because I can't see you,
Mike, okay, Mike, you guys come on.
all right.
pull up, Michael.
I don't know.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, well, I just want you to look at this, because this is our tool for raising some money. This is the project now.
All right.
And there's another board that's a higher area view.
Yep.
But my question for you is, should we put that equipment under order? Thank you for coming.
So, yeah, because we can go under the state contract order for the equipment that needs to come in. The rest of this as far as whatever cost comes in, but as far as the equipment.
Right.
We have the $30,000.
We have the money.
$1,000.
Well, we have the 10 from us too.
Yeah.
So we have 40.
Is it 40 or I thought it was 20 and 10? I'll look it up.
No, you're-
30 and 10.
You're 30 and 10, so we're at 40. And
Right.
the equipment part is, I
So I have
forget.
so if we're ready to move ahead, then we're right, we need to contract with, what's her name? And then figure out the installation and the rest.
Our nice lady.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, under FEC.
Do we need another vote, Michael?
You don't need any other votes.
Okay.
You've already approved it, so now it's just my job to carry it out. So now I'll go to that I'll contact her
Get it.
and just get all move forward with the contract.
Okay,
documents.
and in terms of our money, we voted it, so that's,
Voted it. That's it.
and what about the money?
Already
There's
been
nothing,
appropriated. All the
that,
money's been appropriated for this.
okay, super duper.
Yep.
So we're hoping that these boards, who were very generously donated by Derek Holt and printed and were extremely expensive. And he and I spent a lot of time
Does he
putting
do
them
portraits of dogs? I've got an Australian Shepherd.
He does the most amazing printing. But anyway, and he's this lovely, lovely man. Guess what we do need is a vote. There are about $150 worth of out-of-pocket costs because we paid for the actual mounting. He printed it and we paid to have it mounted on these boards. So unless there's objection,
Do we need a vote for that?
do we need a vote for that to?
Well,
Can you just deal with that, Michael, offline? We don't know.
Okay.
I mean, this,
just
deal with it.
yeah, you've already done it. That's so.
Yes, we have already done it. And either I have to pay for it out of pocket or we get reimbursed. So anyway, or actually, he's actually paid for it. Okay, moving on. Thank you all, and thank you, Michael.
What's next on our thing?
What?
What's next on our thing?
You.
Continuing.
Update on the funding.
Did you see the thing I sent?
I did.
And do we
And
give it to everyone?
here's a copy, if everybody hasn't seen it. This is done by Patrick.
I'm just gonna read it's not that long, I'm just gonna read it so that folks who are online can see it, because I don't have any way to share it with me. CPC funding discussion. CPC has approximately 1.12 million available for funding this year, with another 75,000 or so available for return to the fund. As we have discussed, there are several initiatives to consider for funding operations. The first is impediment remediation fund, which is what I've spent most of the time on for today's meeting. Low-income homeowners qualify for opportunities to improve their homes in two areas. The first is grants provided from the state via Berkshire Community Action Council, BCAC, in the areas of weatherization, energy efficiency, and heating systems repairs and replacement. The second is grants provided from the federal government managed by the state via the Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG. The town is working with Bailey Boyd, a specialist in CDBG, and has applied for the fiscal year 2025 CDBG round with Great Barrington. According to BCAC, I talked to them today, Stockbridge has at least 35 income eligible block grant applicants. They also know that there are many elderly folks who have not gotten assistance, have not followed through on their grant requests because they are, and these are their exact words, too proud to ask. To be eligible for home improvements, there can be no impediments in place. An impediment is a situation that, if present, disqualifies an applicant from funding in the two prior programs. Examples of impediments include knob and tube wiring, vermiculite, storage and hoarding issues that may need to be cleaned out, and they actually will pay to clean the property out, if that's the case, asbestos removal around heating equipment, replacement of leaking oil tanks, and mold remediation. The Stockbridge Select Board approved $35,000 in ARPA funding to address the impediment removal in 2022. All of these funds were deployed to assist 3 local homeowners with impediment removal, thus allowing them to qualify for the state and federal funding. For the fiscal year 2025 grant cycle, I propose, this would not be in the grant application, this is for you. I propose HG allocate $25,000 of its own funds for impediment remediation and ask the CPC to provide matching funding in approximately $50,000 for a total pool available to BCAC of $75,000. This would be roughly twice the amount that they deployed for the 3 homes at $35,000 that successfully deployed. These funds would then be drawn upon as reimbursement for work performed in Stockbridge. So in other words, we don't send the money to BCAC until the work has been completed. They've already confirmed they can front load the money. They've got more than enough capital, and then just seek reimbursement from the trust. And our contact, a very helpful woman at BCAC is Renee Schmidt. So I'd just like to get feedback first before we move to the second page on this idea, which is relatively modest, and I think would, is both a great thing for our income qualified homeowners, as well as something that seeks to renovate and preserve existing housing stock rather than build new housing stock. So, any thoughts?
I think it's an excellent proposal.
Yeah.
And I would support it.
Agree. Hey, it sounds great, Patrick. And so we have 225,000 in the bank right now. So we've spent 10, allocated 10 for the
We
play.
have more than 25, right? We'll be taking 25 of that money and putting it toward this program.
Right.
And CBC prefers if there's a match, they don't generally do 100% of a project cost. So having some of the previously designated money from the trust seems like it would be reasonable.
And you think 75 is a good sized pool?
I mean, they had more applicants than they could fund for them, the 35,000 we gave them last year. In fact, that was a surprise to me. I didn't realize we were already out of money, or I would have come back to this board sooner and asked for, in fact, I'll throw this out there. We don't have to wait. They have applicants right now they could be serving. We don't have to wait for the July 1 new fiscal year. We have money that we've been apportioned now, and we could conceivably, allocate $25,000 or $50,000 for home impediment remediation right now if we wanted to, and keep those projects on track. The federal, state and federal funding is in flux. I don't know if you've seen the paper around some of the challenges with both the federal government challenges are well known. The state basically is right now a deficit, and the governor's proposed unilateral discretionary program funding cuts. So while these monies are available from the state, I would love for homeowners to have access to them. And I think this is a completely reasonable and appropriate deployment of funds, but we can do that with a vote. We don't need to, you'll have to put it on the agenda for the next meeting. It's not on the agenda today, but we could fund remediation now.
No,
And still use those.
And still then do this for next year.
oh, because the agenda item says CPC funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
To say that I would agree with that, because these are problems that people should get taken care of in their house regardless of what happens. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be subject to the deadlines for the
Right.
community development money. We should just get this stuff cleaned up.
Who is Berkshire? Who are they?
They're a grant group in Pittsfield that has the state contract for managing the weatherization and heating system repairs and energy efficiency programs. Usually Mass Save will only pay a certain percentage.
Right.
So if someone, a high income homeowner wanted to do insulation, Mass Save will still pay part of it. It's available to everybody, but they won't pay all of it. This is the group that manages the 100%. So for people who are really relatively low income homeowners, rather than go through Mass Save, they go through BCAC. But they go to BCAC, they say, yeah, I want to do it, but they've got 100 boxes of stuff from the last 60 years in their house because they're mentally ill or whatever, or for whatever reason. I don't mean to suggest that. Or they've got, they've got asbestos around their heating oil tank, or they've got vermiculite, or they've got, any one of other things. I know I didn't, not too wired. In those cases, they'll refuse to do the weatherization or the upgrade, because if there's some reason, it's called impediment, they won't go in and do the work.
Okay. I don't think we can vote it.
I don't think we should anyway. I think everyone should think about it, but maybe put it on the next agenda and determine as, what you think an appropriate amount would be, and then we can get back in touch with Renee and let her know.
Okay, great.
Meanwhile, you'll pursue this with this.
Well, the CBC, if I have permission, this would be a separate thing. I think that we would say the 25 and the 50 apps, if that's okay with everyone. That we can approve right now.
Right, but we need to get that application. It's due what?
I'll write the application based on this. It's 400 words, which you have to split up into 3 questions, and it's really, as long as you give me the outlines of if this is the basic proposal.
We don't need a vote, do we, to ask you to do this?
Well, I think it would be good to vote to request to approve this application, sure. This in sentiment anyway.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we we fund remediation. Now, there's another caveat here. There's all sorts of really specific limitations and requirements to how CPC funds can be deployed. I am assuming that this idea is fundable. I am not a lawyer, and often my assumptions get me in trouble. So I will simply say this, that this would be conditional, of course, on town council reviewing it and determining that this is an appropriate use of CPC funds.
Just say, you came back in for a reason, Michael?
Patrick could ask me if I have.
Oh, if you need to go, I'll call you. I'll call you.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do think that it's a problem.
Yeah, I know it is.
Yes, and this,
It's a problem for CPC to fund it?
yes, the CPC money can only be used for housing improvements if the property in question was acquired or constructed with CPA funding. And so any kind of housing rehab projects have to come from another source.
But the question is whether we can work with a third-party provider. And I don't know the answer to this yet, but the workaround here would be by funding BCAC, they're able to sometimes do the same way that we can use CPC funds, well, I think it's a question.
How about if you help?
I think it's.
Patrick, why don't
How
you
to-
talk
how
to
to
town
have an
council?
And Patrick, how about more ARPA funds?
The ARPA's done. ARPA finished in December 23. All the money's been deployed. We used the last 100,000 on the Pinewoods crosswalk that the part of the state wouldn't fund. So town council, I will do that. And if not, did we have any source of income other than CPC in the past? No, our 225 all came from CPC. So it could be that we just can't do this and maybe we just, do it figure out some other way. Now, for example, there was a payment from the Residential Inclusionary Trust, that wouldn't have the CPC.
That would be fine.
I understand, yeah. So, it's my understanding that we'll be getting a proposal on that soon, maybe, that's why having multiple funding sources is going to be important. But it may not be that CPC is the one on this one.
That's absolutely right.
For this one, but turn the page.
Yeah, so now my question is, on the vague headline called development project, and I will give you, because this is, you are welcome to have a copy of this, this is what we're talking about now. So to agree that on either the donated land or other land, it struck me that there were three areas that we could talk about, and I feel like I needed guidance in terms of, it's my understanding with other surrounding efforts that the state has come in with infrastructure improvement monies. They did it on that Great Barrington project that was a CDC or Construct, one of them did. But there's a match involved. There's also obviously the consultant support around, getting the answers that we talked about today. And finally, there's, per unit support to close the gap. If we're to go with, for example, home ownership, missing middle kind of housing, basically trying to sort of fund in this round, let's say that the typical, teacher salary could afford a mortgage of 300 and we all in can get a house built for 425. Starting to fund like what that gap on average might look like. Say, look at if we could fund 3 houses with $250,000 or something. The reason why I want to kind of have the discussion with CPC this year is that we're in this weird situation where we had, usually CPC is only about 300 to 350,000 a year. This year we have 1.1 million because of the accounting work that was done over the last, to kind of clean up the books from the last 20 years. So I would like to kind of get a conditional appropriation for at least the money earmarked and left and undesignated. Those are two different ways that we could do that because we're not going to have the answers by the time the CPC votes in March. But, I just feel like since we've got such a much more significant pot of money available to us, that if we're going to do something that we should ensure it's not deployed elsewhere while we get the answers that we're looking for.
So Patrick, what are you suggesting that we request from CPC in terms of the development project?
I think that Full disclosure, you know, I sit on CPC, so, and that's not considered a conflict of interest because it's not, I don't personally benefit from it. In fact, they encourage folks like who are on the trust or on the Conservation Commission, who also sit on CPC to bring their perspectives to CPC. My recommendation would be that we ask the committee to, I don't think we're gonna have answers to any of the questions that we need to get a realistic proposal in front of folks. But I think it's really important that a significant portion of the CPC funds that would be able to fund these things not be designated in this cycle, because we've got over three times the money that we normally have. Let's leave it undesignated while we get these answers. And then based on what we then find out, have money available if we decide to go forward, you know, and that also then doesn't take all the air out of, you know, what Riverbrook or Pine Woods or Construct or Heaton Court might want for this cycle. Because let's face it, they have ongoing maintenance needs and the rest of it that you know, we're not going to get 2/3 of the 1.1 million for housing initiatives this year. But I think it's reasonable for us to say, let's take several $100,000 and just not designate the housing, just leave it undesignated and give us a year to figure this out. I think that would be like a really good way to.
Couldn't we ask that it be, just like you asked for it to be last time about the land? Because this is exactly the same situation as the land, the Mohegans, the Swan property.
Yeah.
That it was in limbo as to whether the town was going to have to fund a significant chunk of it.
Yeah,
But
and we didn't.
And we didn't. So that's part of that money, that $1.1 million that's now available.
Right, and we specifically didn't. You see, the problem with us, why we went to the trouble of withdrawing the request for the Mohican, the Running Mountain parcel, was that if we not withdrawn the money, then you can't take it from, once you designate it into a project related to a certain bucket, which is open space, historic, or housing, you can't withdraw it from that bucket. So once again, put on my CPC hat, I want the best projects to win and not, so that's why keeping it kind of undesignated is maybe better than saying, you know, can you earmark it? Because if at town meeting we go and we get some money earmarked for housing generally, you can't use it for anything else. And we couldn't, if another parcel, for example, on conservation that we wanted to get opened up, we wouldn't be able to pull the money out of the housing bucket and put it into the open space bucket. So I like the idea of working really with being candid with the committee, saying we're not ready yet for a request. However, you know, we know that you have an extraordinary, you know, situation that is not typical. It's once in a generational, and we would ask that you leave several $100,000 undesignated so that we can come back to you in the next cycle.
Well, are we going to be specific with the number? I mean, I thought we were talking about 400,000.
Well, we can ask for whatever. I mean, basically, it's pulling the rabbit out of our, there's no way to, I mean, we don't, the whole point is we don't have any of the work done to even do a proposal on any of these things. I have no idea what running infrastructure costs. I don't know what it would cost to improve water and sewer if we needed to. All these things are kind of up in the air right now.
So Patrick, if it's left undesignated in this round, do we have to wait a whole year to come back to have it designated, or can we?
We could conceivably ask CPC to have an out of cycle meeting, and we could schedule a special town meeting. That would be, once again, extraordinary. It's a once a year cycle. So, it's not like we couldn't do it, but we would have to have a special town meeting. They have to be designated town meeting.
So if it's not designated at all, any of it, then if things are indicating that it is possible to move forward on this project, we have to wait a whole year to do anything?
I don't think we have to wait. Look, I think,
Could I, Patrick, while you're thinking?
No, I'm not, but let me just answer this.
Let me ask, but it relates to that.
Right.
It's my understanding that last year, when you asked for that, the 400,000 for the land, it was designated, or whatever it was, 300, that they designated it for the land subject to whether it was needed. And if it weren't needed, it goes into undesignated.
No, it doesn't work that way. So if once it's voted on as a project at town meeting, and we pulled it out before town meeting, which is why it's still undesignated. So we couldn't designate it for housing. And I just think, you know, when the rest of your neighbors were here earlier, there was a sort of a like formalistic approach to, Madam Chair, is it appropriate to talk now? This is a town of like, you know, 1,800 folks and then another 1,800 in the summer, all right? We don't need to have, if we have a really good idea and we need the money in the middle of the cycle, I will personally make it a point, and I'm one of the 3 votes to get a special town meeting, to ask for a special town meeting. And here's why: we've got this great opportunity and we can't wait. This isn't like some big giant bureaucracy where we can't make decisions as a town when we need to make them. There's no reason we can't go in September. If we made some huge giant project and, you know, it turns out that, you know, with love, we come up with a great thing that you all want to do, and that's what we want to go to town meeting with, a town meeting takes 21 days to organize, and and we have to get 50 people to show up. And those 50 people, you know, whether it's fair or not that 50 people get to decide, or 200, whoever shows up, decisions are made by those who show up, as someone said on one of my favorite TV shows once. And I think that's how town government works. So I have no problem if we need to go, not wait a year, for us to basically be honest with folks and say, look, this is why we want to keep this project moving forward, and we'll do a proposal to fund it out of cycle, you know?
Okay, so the proposal is that you are going to write it, right?
I'm not going to write a proposal on the undesignated. I would bring that proposal into the meeting and say, this is what we discussed and what we want to do. There's no proposal around undesignated funds. They're just not designated. You know, we have no legal requirement to designate all funds.
But we're going to tell them that the reason we're asking for it is for this.
Absolutely. I will encourage the CPC I'll tell them exactly what I just said now.
There are quite a few communities where they ask for undesignated funds so that they can respond expeditiously to the situations as they arise, instead of waiting again for, annually. You know, some communities transfer automatically, pretty much, a certain percentage of the allocation to the Housing Trust Fund, so that there is that flexibility. So if you could get an undesignated $700,000 into your trust fund, you could be much more responsive on a development project if it was moving ahead.
Well, and I think that's
And it wouldn't have to be designated for one particular project.
That's not the term undesignated is a legal term related to CPC. It's not whether it's designated to a project.
Yeah, but one of our objectives, I thought, was also to begin to fund the Affordable Housing Trust.
Yeah.
So
we could consider
so that we can do projects over the future.
Right.
And so right now we have,
do it.
right now we have 225,000. We're spending part of that. And so.
And last year we heard.
So the question is, it would seem to me we want to ask for some amount to be designated to the trust, even if we don't want to designate it specifically to
and I think that's the reason that's a third area
project. Right?
And maybe what we do is we ask for, and I know what the answer is going to be though, because we heard it last year. The answer is going to be, we gave you 225 already. What have you spent it on? And that's why things like like coming up with ways for us we can always ask for more, but we haven't, and look, we made tremendous progress. Like the housing production plan is a Herculean effort. For a new committee, we're getting great work done. Negotiating the potential, whether or not we can follow through on it or not, negotiating the potential on the land donation is a really impressive, I think, accomplishment. But we are new, and we have $225,000. And if the money,
We shouldn't sit on it, basically.
We're kind of like the new guys on the block. CBC's been around for 20 years, and you've got 3 existing developments in town. And I think that there's a reasonable expectation of CPC that we're going to show what good work we're doing. And so I think asking for another 100,000 is maybe reasonable. I mean, what do you guys think? I'll write that proposal any way you want. I already wrote the first 2 years worth, to CPC. I could just literally open the file and change the number.
Well, just to flip the other side of the coin is that this project, this donation, if it does move forward, $200,000 isn't enough money to get us to the point of getting it, getting a partner.
Well, I think that is the sort of argument you could make, is to just say the exorbitant cost. of everything we're dealing with, regardless of whether it's this new project or whether it's Heaton Court, or is just so egregious at this point, even compared to 4 or 5 years ago, that, you know, we don't want to sit on the money. We want to do something with it, but we want to make sure that what we're spending has an impact, and we don't just deplete 175,000 and not get a lot back for it. So, I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, so what do you think? You want to ask for, and what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, you know, if this falls through and other opportunities come up, $225,000 really isn't very much money, especially if you were going to buy a home or say a cottage that had potential to have more than one unit in it. We don't even have a down payment, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can make a strong case to get additional funding based on the possibility of the Morris project, but beyond that, if we just even want to acquire a home being taken for taxes and fix it up to create one household, we're not going to get there with 225. So in order to even consider doing other things, we need some kind of a bankroll. And it's not like we want to sit on the money and go, oh, aren't we happy to have our 300,000? We want to do something with it, but we need enough to do something significant. And so that's our case, is that we need to. I did hear from Steve Schatz that Amherst was sitting on like several $1 million and they hadn't done anything. Amherst, Affordable Housing Trust. Steve Schatz said, these things often don't do anything. And we don't want to get to that point where we're just sitting on a bunch of money and not doing anything with it. But apparently that's one of the knocks on some of the affordable housing.
Yeah, and I think the other question we will reasonably get is we've got pending proposal from a large developer who may or may not go forward in a way that requires a payment or building affordable housing on that property or payment to the trust. And we're going to have much greater insight into what the status of that project, that development is by town meeting than we're going to have by CPC. And so once again, we got a lot of uncertainty. I am all in on trying to get us funding for these initiatives. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, I think the other thing that as a board we should consider is assigning one of you to be a liaison with one or two people in community preservation so that we can keep them apprised when opportunities do come up. We need a really good, strong relationship there. Look, at this year's, once again, weird. Normally CPC only gets 300 grand a year. And if, you know, and even if 40% were to go to housing, which is more than the third for each bucket, that's $120,000. We're never going to, at scale, impact the housing crisis in the Berkshires with CPC. This year is weird, though, because we clawed back like, you know, over $1 million in existing money over the last couple of years that were for grants that had been put out that wasn't completely spent. We've been doing CPC for a long time. I think what they want, I think that but when we say we just put it into the trust and give us the discretion, their culture has always been that they review the projects and determine the merits. That's part of like what the function of CPC has been in this town. So let's work out the culture by just, once again, being neighbors and talking to each other and kind of getting all on the same page rather than, you know, so, you know, let's ask for another 100 or two. How much you want to ask for? We can ask them. But I think that is that look at me, or is that you're asking for two? All right. You know, but I think the other thing is, like, you know, we could also invite their, you know, it's just important that all these committees work together as a team and that we're getting really good give and take around what some of these priorities are. So, you know.
I think it's a good your idea of having one of us be the liaison with them is a very good idea. So we should identify who might want to do that.
Bruce has his hand up.
Hi, Bruce. I'm sorry.
Hi. So, my perspective, you know, one potentially could categorize as being greedy. But we seem to have an opportunity to put our hands on some additional money. And I, for one, would rather have the money in the bank, because I'm sure that with all of the various and sundry things we've discussed, but above and beyond the Mars property, I can't imagine that we're not going to have an opportunity to spend the money. And I would rather have it in the bank so that we can reach into it and get it and move forward with something, than find that we're short and then start looking around again at a time when there may not be the opportunity that we have right now with CPC and whatnot. So I, for one, would be, on very supportive of being aggressive about asking for exactly what we think we could potentially need, or even a little bit more, just so we've got some money to fall back on.
Does that mean you want to ask for 400,000, Bruce?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to have us do that and then have that money, because I can promise you, with everything that this group, this austere body has discussed, that we could find a way to legitimately allocate that money to try to accomplish what the trust is trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I don't have any doubt of that, Bruce. I just feel like we're new and we got to make the case. But
Yeah.
I don't know. There's 7 votes. How many CPC? 7 or 9? I forgot. I don't know.
How many are on it?
I think if we do something relatively modest, it has a better chance of getting a vote. But we also ask for more, and then they could just say, no, let's do 100, or if we could ask for 4, and they could say, here's 50. I have no idea, So it's up
Well,
to
that's strategy. Most people ask for more, assuming they're going to get cut back. We only ask for 100, we probably get 50. We ask for 400, we might get 100, we might get 150.
Yeah.
You're more concerned with the politics of it.
I hate negotiating. I'd much rather bottom line, ask for what you want and make the case for it, and then roll your eyes if you don't get it.
No, but if you know how that goes, I mean, I watched it all last year.
Yeah.
It waved in the wind.
Yeah.
How about we ask for 200 and ask that some be left undesignated for future designation?
Okay.
And maybe as much as 400 be left undesignated. Not necessarily to come to the trust, but to go to a project.
Yeah,
It may not be a
imagine,
trust project.
I imagine that at least 400 will remain undesignated anyway, just because, you want to smooth out when you have a big extra, because CBC is like, someone might need a historic project in 2 years from now that hasn't been anticipated yet.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend it all in 1 year and then
Right.
never have anything for, So, I think that's reasonable. So is that the number you want, 200? So I'm going to update.
How does everyone feel
Is
about that?
there a downside? I mean, we have a robust housing production plan that has a lot of issues on it. Is there a downside to saying these are the things that we're working on? We're not sure to which of them right now we would allocate money, but we know that we're going to need, money for all of, or some or all of them, and ask for the maximum amount. And then let them cut us back. That's just my personal philosophy, to ask for more and let them.
When is our next meeting? Can we have one more meeting
Yeah.
before the deadline? Because
What's the date, February what?
it's around February 15th. And I feel like I feel like we all need to now go through, after we have the conversation around table 4, we need to basically then go back and look at it, the CPC, through the lens of what those priorities are. Because I think Bruce is making a good point, which is, our priorities should drive the funding request,
Yeah.
It's not like we don't have a significant, and I use the term, maybe you'll take it negatively. It's not like we don't have a laundry list of things that we want to pursue, many of which are going to be expensive, irrespective of the Mars project. And so it just seems to me that we can make a strong case for specifically undesignated, but here's the bucket, and from which we will pull of money to support.
Okay.
I would just say, Bruce, I think we do have a lot of things on our agenda, but we don't have specifics on a lot of those at this point. And so I would worry a little bit that the CPC might see it as a grab when we aren't able to articulate the specifics of exactly what it is we want. We have a general category. Yes, and so to Patrick's point, it seems to me it might be better to to ask that some be undesignated. Let the CPC know we may well have things coming up that we would come back and want another town meeting to try to designate some of that. Because I also don't want us to come across as being grabbing.
No.
You know, because we went through a little of that with the CPC last year. So that's just my view, but
I
you guys.
get it, but it's also our only opportunity with this kind of money involved.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Brandy?
Yes.
Hi, honey, it's Carol. I don't have a hand, or I would have put it up.
No face either, just so you know.
I have a sec.
Can you show your face, Carol?
The camera doesn't work. There's my camera. Is that more or less irritating than the black?
I'm just going for the soft focus look.
All right, let's go back to blank, Carol. It's okay.
At my age, soft focus is.
All right, Carol, please, what would you like to say?
As a member of CPC, Bruce, with all respect, my dear, you want to do something the CPC can't do. And I just want to support Jan. All CPC can do is grant money requested for a specific purpose.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. You can't put in a grant that says, gee whiz, give me some money, which we may use sometime for something.
Lots of communities are doing that. They're automatically approving a certain percentage of the allocation go into the housing trust without any particular specific activity assigned to it. It's meant to give the housing trust some flexibility because in doing with development, it's often important to respond to opportunities as they rise. And so that's happening in communities across the state.
And that's a carve out, as I understand, if the housing trusts enjoy that other types of applicants do not.
I still support
what was the whole
Jan
discussion
said.
about asking for money as undesignated? I mean, undesignated to me means it's a bucket of money that the trust is going to get to utilize as more specifics get put on some of the issues to which Jan appropriately, referred, or other things that come up. I mean, otherwise, what's the whole point in having a conversation about asking for money, a bucket of money that's undesignated? There's no, the definition of undesignated means there's not a specific thing on the table that you're going to be spending it. So if there is no opportunity for undesignated or no something money for something for which you have no specific plans, then you're right. Then we shouldn't ask for anything more than what we know we need to spend. But if we're going to have this conversation about asking for money for undesignated, then I think that we ask for, the maximum available.
But that was undesignated within CPC, not an undesignated award out of CPC.
Okay, well, that's my
CPC has open space, housing, historic, and an undesignated. That's within CPC.
I could add something here. To Carol's point, we organized a meeting of all of the affordable housing trusts in Berkshire County last March, which included Williamstown, Pittsfield, Great Barrington, and Lenox. We were new and really just trying to learn some of the ropes. And each of them said that their primary source of funding was CPC funding from in their towns. And I think one of the things that might be going on here is that traditionally, the CPC board members have had specific proposals in front of them and decided yay or nay or how much. And we're a new organization mandated by the town to create affordable housing. And we're asking for a little different approach here. We're saying, hey, we're the affordable housing guys. We'd like to build up an account to be able to do things. And we're sort of asking you to trust us that we will carry out our mission even without you having specific proposals in front of you, which you're used to having. So I think some of what's going on here is that we're new and we're really asking the CPC to open themselves up to let us do our mandate, but giving us some funding to achieve it.
Mark, would you? If I came to you and said, listen, Mark, a long time ago, I did some housing development and I've decided after listening to you that I'm going to develop some affordable housing here in Stockbridge. So what I'd like the Affordable Housing Trust to do is give me $100,000. I'll put it in the bank so that I'm ready to move if
Oh, come on.
an opportunity comes up. Are you going to grant that to me?
But Carol, there's 7 people on this board and
Yeah.
and we are limited by both law and bylaw. Or, you know, I mean, I don't think it's the same as, but whatever. Okay.
I'm
Well-
just saying, as a hypothetical, does anyone do this?
I don't know.
Well, the answer to that question is
Yeah.
many towns across the state fund a percentage of CPC into the Affordable Housing Trust
Every
to use
year.
at their discretion. So the answer to that question is yes.
And you have given us $200,000 in the past for general activities to see.
I'd like to correct that. Town meeting appropriates based on CPC's recommendations. You know, I hear this a lot actually when, none of us, our jobs as individuals on these boards is to give, or we're not doing each other favors. We are making the best decisions on behalf of the town and we're bringing them to town meeting for them to vote on it. And I think it's important, I know it's a subtlety, but I think it's important that we remember in the language that we are not, it's not our money, it's the town's money. And but also though that funding boards, whether it's the select board or any other board that raises and appropriates, is not giving. They are recommending.
Right. Forgive me.
Yeah.
But they did more than recommend. They recommended it to the town and the town voted it. And it is now part of, well, our bank account right now.
The housing trust, yes.
The housing trust, exactly. Since we're in this meeting, we're speaking for the trust. I'm very worried because the purpose of this meeting was to talk about the housing production plan.
An hour and a half. TikTok. Hour and a half later.
And it's not like we can continue on because I think planning's coming in at 6.
No, next week.
We can be here all night.
Well,
No,
not really.
I'm walking out the door 5:45, so.
Yeah, I have a hard
Can we
out.
have another meeting of CPC in 2 weeks?
Yes,
Okay, so let's plan on doing that and maybe move on from CPC now.
okay. So we have 15, 20 minutes before Patrick has to leave.
So did we just say we're going to have a
That
meeting?
was helpful though, you heard from neighbors. And
Yes, can we?
Can we schedule the meeting?
Let's schedule the meeting.
Okay.
People, please,
Before you go.
before we lose everybody here.
I'm not leaving yet.
Are you available January 20th?
Should we just have another meeting? Because
Yes.
it's
That's what we're
just
doing
too
right
much to
now.
go through and,
January 25th, 4 o'clock, everybody can do that?
Okay, the only thing I'm going to put on the agenda then is this housing production plan because that's
No public
no
comments.
public
And no
comments,
public
no nothing. Because otherwise we're not going to get.
Oh, man.
All right.
We're shooting for January 25th, if it works for everybody.
I can be on Zoom.
Question, I'm here for the housing plan. Are you talking about that tonight or no?
We're just saying we're running out of time, so we might schedule another meeting to discuss it then.
the 25th I can do.
I
Okay.
don't know that I can do it.
All right. If Jan can't come, when can you?
I could come the beginning of that week, I think, the
I'll be
22nd.
out of town earlier in the week.
22nd, you can't do it, Mark?
No, I'm in
Okay.
Utah.
When are you back?
I'll be arriving by the afternoon of the 25th. I could be here at 4 o'clock on Thursday, the 25th, but other people.
But Jan can't.
Friday the 26th.
I'm,
Or not the week after that even.
Yeah.
the week after that, I could do early in the week.
What about the 29th?
Monday, the 29th?
How about the 29th?
That's perfect.
I'll have to be on Zoom, but I can do it. Joe's gone, so I need to be.
I can do it.
Okay.
Okay, Monday the 29th.
Monday, the 29th at 4? Everybody?
Yep.
So Kate, it sounds like we're moving that agenda item to Monday, the 29th, because we ran out of time today.
Okay, so you're not discussing the housing plan tonight?
No.
Nope.
Okay, thanks very much.
Sorry.
Sorry, Kate.
I only have a half hour on the 29th because I have a Board of Trustees meeting for Integritas, the Berkshire Healthcare System Long-Term Planning Board.
What time is that meeting, Bruce?
Starts at 4:30.
Oh, geez. Can we do it
3:30?
You want to do it early? Or Patrick?
3:30 on the 29th, I can do whatever.
Yeah, because
can do
Patrick
that.
and I
I
are, do
live for this stuff.
you want to do 3?
Why don't we just do it at
Why don't
3?
you do it
so
at
gives us
3?
Enough time.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
On the 29th.
3 o'clock.
Dragging and dropping.
Okay,
3 PM.
we're on it.
All right.
All right, in that case, I'm so sorry, Karen, you've come a long way.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Karen.
Oh, yeah.
That's okay. It was an interesting meeting. It kept my interest.
Okay, the problem is, gang, we've got to decide on the CPC.
Yeah. If anybody has any thoughts,
All right,
give me a call.
it's got to be,
I mean, I think we should decide you want more than 100 and less than 4, right?
yeah.
I don't know what we're gonna get. I'm just saying, my read is, like I said, my read of the room is that, if our best approach, I think, is to talk folks to folks and give us a little,
Yeah, maybe spend part of this coming year building up
yeah, that's right.
the relationship with CPC members so that there's a little more.
And did I hear a volunteer to be the, did I hear a volunteer, or shall I appoint?
You can't appoint.
I will try to do that if you want.
Jen has just volunteered.
Well, you know 2 of them, because they're sitting right here.
Yes,
That's right, and Carol's one of them.
yes, and I know Carol.
Good.
So,
All right.
Jackie has a question. No, I just wanted to ask, I know we said that there would be discussion of the draft housing production plan, but there will not be opportunity for public comment because of the, I'm
Oh,
assuming.
so this is limited. Oh, yeah, no, I didn't mean that. I just meant on any other.
I don't think you were the one who said.
Okay. Yeah.
What we have to do is have the time and not look what happened tonight. And not that, because we're not going to have any more information. I think.
But I think what she's asking is.
She's asking about public comments on the housing production plan.
yeah, I
Absolutely.
think we had that at the end of the meeting.
Come on.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you can comment on during
At
the
the end of the
discussion. No, it doesn't have to be at the end of the meeting. No. Well, we're talking about the housing production plan.
Right.
You can volunteer. You don't have to wait until the end. You can chime right in.
Okay, fine, I just,
Plus, there will be other
I
opportunities.
heard something else. So I just want to make sure that we have an opportunity to, as members of the public and
Yes.
residents, to talk about the housing production plan.
Would we appreciate that? We would
Yes.
be most grateful.
Yes.
We
Please
talked
bring
about a
as many-
second community meeting to present the draft and to get specifically to get feedback.
Yes, what I thought we were going to do was wait
Then goes to
until
the state.
after we had
There's like all sorts of.
initial conversation.
It's like one of those formal state laws.
Did you mention that it's going to go to the town again? Because we're going to present it to the town.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
For
if you
further
want to,
discussion.
if you want to be in, we don't have to have public comments to discuss what we're discussing. In other
Sure can
words,
recognize anyone.
while the plan's being discussed up here, you can, and anyone who's sitting in those chairs can participate with us, and we would welcome that. We have been trying to encourage that. And we had a public meeting about it this summer, and we'll have another one, right? As soon as we can get a meeting to,
As soon as we can approve.
And the draft is online?
The draft is not online.
Not yet.
We were going to, it's 100 and some pages.
I'm sorry.
Just so you give your email
If you
and
want to
we'll
have the
forward
most
to you.
productive meeting, obviously, it's
Yeah.
helpful for people.
It's not a
to see
secret.
it
We'll
Before we
post it.
get here, so that.
But there's still, there was a necessity to have some conversations about some issues within the committee before we kind of felt that it was in shape to post online. And then we're going to have a community meeting to present it. And there'll be also opportunities for the planning board and the board of selectmen to, in their hearings, meetings, to have comments. So there'll be, ideally, we don't want to submit something that no one's, haven't all agreed on.
That's the only
Discussion
hesitation.
of the draft housing production plan report is a presentation of the plan, which will facilitate public comment if, should there be any.
Yes.
That's all.
There is a draft. There are certain parts of the draft that this whole group has not seen or discussed.
Right.
Before it was sent out to this group.
Right.
And so the thought was to have at least the comments from this group, which may wholly disagree with some things that are in there, to try to sort through that first and then have a draft that would be released.
Broadly circulated.
Broadly circulated.
But
It's also a public document by the fact that it's a public body. So if you write down your email address, I'll send you the copy of it with my comments tonight. You have every right to view any work in progress. You're a citizen of this town and there's no secret plan here. This is basically like you want it, you want to read it. The thing is, Karen here is our consultant, and she wrote the first draft. So a lot of us who live here had said, oh, no, I like this, but maybe we should do that. And that process we haven't gone through yet. So, but if you want to see it as in its current bones.
It's going to change from the current bones.
Yeah, you have every right
I
to do it.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just want to say that the town has been very responsive, as far as I'm concerned, to requests for information.
Yeah.
So that's very much appreciated.
Yeah.
I think by everyone.
that's good.
All right. So you want to, just let me know if you want a copy as this.
Or I can go through Michael, right?
Yeah, you go through, like you want my comments.
Or you can contact
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Jan has taken responsibility for working with our consultant to produce and has done the lion's share of the work so far. So there's been a good bit of work, the discussion, and I really think that you're very welcome to come and participate in the discussion but I don't think we plan to publish it online.
Well, my point simply is that if anybody does a record, it's equivalent to a public records request. Anybody can request anything. If you want to read all my emails, just ask Michael for them. They're all public.
I just want to say that
You really don't want to, there's thousands of them, but
it's a work in progress. And there's some risk of having different drafts of it floating around and people holding it up and saying, well, wait a minute, you did this, when in fact, the ultimate document may be different. So that's just one of the areas that's a little dicey. And also, once it is completed and approved by this board, it has to go to the planning board and select board. At that time, they will discuss and debate it when it's in the form that we want to submit.
Right.
And that's the best time to chew it over.
May change it.
But again,
Jackie as a professional planner, I'm sure you've been through this process a gazillion times before. So she knows,
She knows.
And we're very welcoming, as I said, your participation.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Now that we found you.
You might be in trouble.
May not get.
She's going to volunteer you.
I'll list your phone number.
Are we ready?
We'll be calling you and letting you know. Yes, okay, Patrick, I guess,
Oh, wait, we have to adjourn, don't we?
do you have a motion to adjourn, ladies?
Second, yay.
Who voted, who passed it?
I'll pass it.
Okay, so who passed it? Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.